Yes. TV set. It should be facing this man. Normally after. That it was there. And welcome to this very important short press briefing. But as customary to Gambians, before we start anything, we invite God into our midst through prayers. May I now ask each and every one of us to pray in our own various ways for a peaceful press conference. Amen. As you were all aware of the situation that brought us here, we are just going to entertain questions that are direct to what our agenda of the day is. As MoBSE, I want to make that clear before I introduce members of the high table, so that we will just keep to what we are here for, Region 1. On my far left, I have Director Sadie, HR Director, and next to him I have DPS Admin and Finance, Mr. Jerry Sanyang, and of course the Permanent Secretary is not a new face to you. You know him. That's the Permanent Secretary of MoBSE, Mr. Louis Moses Mendy. Director of Science and Technology will join us, and then the others are officials of the ministry. You're welcome to this press briefing. And we are not here to blame anybody, but we want to state clearly what we have been doing so that we all understand. Education is everybody's business, and it is also right and fitting that when you have air, so that everybody will also be aware what actually happened and what we have been doing. We all know that we have a lot of messages going around, but nonetheless, MoBSE was not heard, and we are a party to it. We thought that it is fitting that we call up this press, call up this press, call up this press, going to be a long press briefing, So we'll allow the permanent secretary to make a statement, and then you can come up with your questions, and then we will also respond. That is the nature of the press conference. It's not going to be a very long press conference. So without wasting much time, I want to ask Mr. Pierce, is that what we want to do? To just give a press, a brief briefing, and then we can go ahead with the questions. So, yeah, let's shift.
Good afternoon. First and foremost, my colleagues from the sector, my directors, DPS, and the other staff here, and of course to you, my dearest friends, the media. Like Madam Emil Gomez has said, over the last 2 weeks, there has been a lot of requests from media houses, both the print, requesting for engagement with the sector in terms of what is happening. Some we have reached out to, others we have not reached out to. And because they continue to come, we thought it wise that we just have a press conference that will address the requests once and for all. Like she said, this is related to the COVID-19 allowance that related to the sit-down strike by teachers, so the laying down of tools by teachers. Let me say that when we opened schools in October 2020, we invited some of you to share the model that we had as a sector. This model was supposed to look at what needed to be done in our schools, including the related cost in doing what we wanted to do. As a sector, the policy requires that we have 46 students in a class. That's why you have 23 benches, seating 2 students per bench in a class. But when the COVID hit, the Ministry of Health and the World Organization, Health Organization, WHO, brought in some protocols and regulations that we needed to observe because of COVID. And in that regard, schools were requested or required to reduce the class size from either 46 in a standard class, or in some cases where you have larger numbers, like in the Bundums, the Serakundas, to reduce those in the 50s and more to the same 23. When that happens, it means a normal class of 46 students will now be divided into 2. And any class that is 60 would be divided into 3. So it's more classroom, more teaching and learning materials to be able to do that. So when we did the model, initially, when we limit our class sizes to 23, there were 29 schools that would have been affected. So we came up with different methods. We came up with double shifting. We came up with alternating. Double shifting would mean that students will go to school from Monday to Friday. Some will go to school Monday to Friday in the morning, and the others will go Monday to Friday in the afternoon. But alternating is in the case where students will be required to go to either 3 days a week in some cases, or 4 days a week in some other cases. But how that is done in terms of the number of days and which class goes 4 days or 3 days was left to the school administrators because they know the students that they want to prioritize. For example, whether the grade 12 they would prioritize or the grade 9s. That's what warranted that kind of modeling system. So we invited everybody, including all the stakeholders, and shared this. We floated it and said, anybody who has to go to school from Monday to Saturday because of COVID, we will pay you for the Saturday class. However, there were schools not as many students as the other, and that was across the country. When we rolled this out into the system, school administrators, based on the love for their students, decided to see how they also do what we call a catch-up plan, which we developed. What is this catch-up plan? You may recall that the 17th of March 2020, schools were closed until the 14th of October and the 18th of October when they were reopened. So that gap that the students lost, which translated to 265 contact hours, that was what resulted or warranted that catch-up plan, so that the time they lost during that period could be recovered for them, more especially for the students who are on examination class, and this I refer to grade 9s and grade 12. So that was rolled. At the end of the year, we requested for the data from the schools and the regions to see who has taught from Monday to Friday to Saturday because of COVID, as we promised them. The data we got, we processed it, and teachers were paid by the December salary payment. However, there were some data that were still remaining because of their job. So that data came late, and when it came, it was subjected to verification, as we did in the past, for them to be paid. The reason for verification is to ensure that people who verification is to ensure that people who, for example, if a particular school only taught on Saturday for 2 weeks, and another taught on Saturday for 1 month or 2 months, these teachers cannot be paid the same, can they? No. So we needed to verify that. So in January, we did the verification. There were some administrative observations that they had, and that challenged the payment for the month of January. When this was brought to the attention of our partners, it was difficult for them to understand and bear with us. And as a result, there were engagements, and we requested for time to be able to professionally and procedurally do the process that is required for the payments to be done. We couldn't meet their time line as they wanted, and that's what led to the sit-down strike. So in short, just for you to understand what led to that sit-down strike. The ministry has always been committed to ensuring that the plight of teachers is looked at and addressed. And that's can be seen from the different interventions that the ministry has done over the last. So in brief, This is what happened, and we thought we needed to share with you so that it is not us being said in some quarters that every teacher was to be paid. No, it is not us. We were selective in payment. No, it is not us. It is not us. It is not us. It is because we pay as the data comes and as we verify that those data for us to be able to pay accordingly. These are public funds and they must be accountable for. And as a sector, we needed to do that process. I think without much in summary, that's what happened. But just as an update, when we showed commitment in paying, last week we were able to pay the remaining teachers as per the data we got. We were able to pay them. And the result of that, the union, the Gambia Teachers Union, lifted the ban on the strike, and classes have resumed in earnest. But let me use this opportunity to say that we have always, in the past, which some of you can bear, commended our teachers for the work they've been doing. You may recall when this COVID hit, some teachers, especially in provinces, developed some hubs to support their students. Some went the extra mile to teach all the week, just because they wanted to help. And we have always recognized that. We have always appreciated that. And we have always commended them for that, which is on record. So we do recognize the efforts of our teachers. And we have always worked also with the Gambia Teachers Union in the past. We have a renewed relationship. And we want to commend them for the resumption of class after the payment of the odd balance that was there. But notwithstanding, I also want to use this forum to say and appeal to my teachers and say, if there is anyone that is erroneously left out or who thinks he or she has taught and should have been paid and has not been paid, I request that they channel their correspondence to their head teachers, to the regional office, and even to GTU, so that we could compile those, review them, verify them, and pay them accordingly if there is any, just to ensure that there is smooth teaching and learning in our schools. It's out of this particular strike issue, but I also want to use the opportunity to say there was also something on the new pay scale, which I want to talk about. That the new pay scale has been developed by PMO, and it's been worked on daily basis before its implementation in July. But let me say, there is none that has been implemented without hitches. A new pay scale will always be implemented with some hitches. We are not anticipating that this one will follow the same pattern. But at least we need to draw reference from the past. But in the event that happens and some of our teachers are affected, I will request that they follow due process by bringing up their complaint through their heads, through the regional office, and also through GTU, so that it could be quick for the smooth running of the sector. On that note, I want to thank you and say I appreciate your coming, and good luck. Thank you.
Thank you very much, yes. I think it is very clear. So we don't want to add anything as yet as to what he has said. You've heard it very clearly. The allowance is not meant for everything. You need to get that very clear. because there was a model that was presented. And we have different categories of schools. And because we have different categories of schools, obviously, their mode of operation will also have. So therefore, if you then you allow your colleague to go the other days while you stay at home. If you are working on Saturday, but the 3 days you are working on happen to be a Saturday, you are not entitled to this allowance. We want to get it very clear, because you are the eyes and the ears of the nation. So once it is clear here, we'll show it is clear everywhere. So he has made it very clear. Those who were involved have been paid accordingly because of data. If your data is not here, how can we pay you? That is very, very important. So the floor is open. We've got a lot of directors here who were involved in whatever, in developing these models and in the administration of all these things. Therefore, please announce your name and let us hear your question.
And the media house you come
Yeah, and the media house you come from, yes. Thank you. That's very important. Yes.
Yes, my name is David. Question, please. About the provision industrial action by teachers going to classes and teach, it will affect everybody. How did we get into this situation?
Okay.
Thank
You want to answer it, or somebody wants to answer?
My question is directed to him.
All right, thank you very much. I think in my submission, I actually touched on that, but let me re-echo again. Like I said, we only so that we have a full year. That was the close of the year before the other financial year started. So we requested for the data in October, November from schools through their regional directorates. Like I said, there were some schools that had their data intact and they submitted and they have been paid. However, because they were participating. And when their data came after the first one, we needed to verify that to ensure that everyone is paid appropriately. We wouldn't as a sector underpay or overpay anybody. Then it brings chaos. Remember, we do not have the luxury of requesting for any amount of funds. It was based on something that was programmed and planned. And what we have to do must fit within that was budgeted. So in the second batch, like I said, it was processed. The data we received was processed up to payment point, which is outside the sector. And there were some challenges at that point. And before those challenges could be resolved, we were already in 2022. The books of government were closed in December 2021. So even if we had wanted to pay at that time, we couldn't have, because the process of government payment has been closed. So this could have only been done in January, which we did in January. But at payment point, there were some challenges at that point. And it could not be resolved within the given time, like I said earlier on, by the teachers' union. And that's what resulted to the situation you are referring to.
Thank you, David. Yeah, let me take from this end. Gambia? Okay. Anybody good in all of you? Li nga wax dëgg la jërëjëf. Su sa mel ni nga bëgg mu asal.
Bi nag dinaa la answer ci àggale de. Waaw because xam naa ne. Waaw interview na ma last week. Just to ensure misquotuñ ma. Perhaps that's your observation, that we were late in engaging you. But if the media is fair with MoBSE, I think you would appreciate that we have never left you in anything we do. We are not people who shy away from media. We have always invited you. But there is always a step to everything and a level in which everyone should be involved. We had an engagement with the GTU, hoping that all of this would be paid or done within the given time. When the first one was paid and the other one was still not being paid, we engaged them again. But the challenge was when they said every teacher must be paid. Who is that teacher that needs to be paid? We need to ascertain that. And that will take time. And in doing so, their time that they gave elapsed. That's what led to it. It's not because we did not involve the media, no. If we had ascertained that, because we wanted to know every teacher. When they tell us every teacher, who is every teacher? Because for us, those who should be paid are those that were programmed and planned by the model. What I said in my submission, however, there were others who took it upon themselves, who came out with good initiatives. My teachers came out with some good initiatives. We recognized it, we appreciated it, we commended them, and in that way we reconsidered also how do we pay them for those efforts. But that would take time. That's what led to it. It's not because we do not want to invite you or we invited you late.
Thank you. Buba, I've not given you the floor. Okay, go ahead.
You collect from these from schools when you are going around that you pay, or you were provided a list by the regional office? That is the first question. So the second question will, I don't know whether the representatives of Region 1 and Region 3 are here. The reason why their data was late, if other regions can submit on time, so we will want to understand why their data was late. So the third question will be, at least almost a week, there is no school. How do you intend to cover this contact hours as a ministry?
Thank you. 3 questions.
Yes.
All right. Do you remember the first one?
And he's asked me that during my one-to-one interview with him. But notwithstanding, just for the purpose of this gathering, let me say that my visit to the schools came after the first payment. It was just last week that I visited the schools. In fact, to be precise, last week, Wednesday. And the schools I visited were LK and Kalinde, because they were the ones that I got message that were on sit-down strike. And when I went there, I requested for their data, just to ensure and compare whether they were not among the first batch that was processed in payment. If so, then they could be paid. And when I got that data, I brought it. Those that were omitted in the previous payment, they were putting data for payment, but also for planning purpose. How do we now plan for the catch-up plan that you asked, your question number 3? That was one of the reasons for that visit. The second question was, It is unless when you get data, you cannot do any planning or any work. Because if we just take for general or for granted that it was every school that never went to school, then we will be mistaken. But at least if we know the schools that did not go to school, we'll be able to work with the administrations of those schools to say you need to do something for the lost time. And that's what we wanted that as an answer to your second question. Third question, sorry. You will know and you'll agree that we are always very, very committed as a sector, and our teachers are always willing to support us in our catch-up plan.
The teachers that were involved in this.
Let's take it meant we got data from every corner. When I say every corner, from the schools, from the and from GTU. We shared the data with them, just to ensure, like I said, just to ensure that nobody has a way of verifying. So it's just not the data we collected. It was all from these collection points.
Mr. Ba, you want to react to this second question about region 1 and 3? Yeah.
Right.
This is
Thank you.
Mr. Ba, the regional director, region 1.
Thank you very much. We appreciate your question. And just to put things in a clear perspective, Region 1 particularly was not late in their submission. And we did submit. But as PS rightly says, the data has to be looked at. And this has posed some challenges, actually, when we were looking at the data. The other aspect is we settled in two sets of data. One was for the public schools, which we have to provide the employment numbers of teachers where they are going to be paid directly to their accounts. The other set of teachers was those in the grant-aided schools, that is the missions and senior secondary schools that are on board, whose teachers don't have employment numbers. That posed a challenge to accounts to pay directly to them. So those were some of the schools that were late to be paid, but the data was available because they have to be paid now to their school accounts, then the schools now to pay the individual teachers. Those poses a problem to some of the payments, but not necessarily the data was not there. Right. So I know my colleagues, they were left out, and the head teachers are writing to that effect and begging it, and we are collating all these things. So it's not a question of data was not collected. Data was collected, and the ones that we had from the schools, we submitted that. But still now we are having, because these are money issues. Some were in the schools, they participated in this and left to the university, others are at the college, others left the public schools, are in private schools. They are coming now to claim that they were in the schools in those days. So these are all things that we have to put together. So if we cannot say that the data was not there. The data is there, but the data cannot be as clean as we want it. And any data that comes, we have to look at it properly before we submit.
Somebody's hand was up. Yes, madam.
So my question is, it is approximately a week before they lift the ban, that is the strike. So was there any impact assessment done? If yes, what was the outcome, findings, and if no, why not? Why wasn't there any impact assessment?
Impact analysis.
Assessment.
Assessment,
like, yeah.
okay. Yeah.
Come over.
Yeah, you can. No, you
No,
can.
we
You have to speak to the mic.
Come here, the mic.
May I introduce Mr. Andrew Mendy?
Okay.
Andrew Gomez. Sorry, Mr. Andrew Gomez.
Thank you very much, Banna. That's a very good question. Because what we are experiencing at the moment is as a result of finding out the impact, actually engaging the teachers to support in the catch-up program. Yes, it is a week now, that about a week, not actually interacting with their teachers in terms of getting their lessons as normal. As a sector, we held an emergency SMT meeting, and all the regional directors were summoned to go back to their regions and establish the number of schools that we are actually taking part in the sit-down strike from day one up to the moment, so that we will know at the beginning, at the commencement of lessons, we will be able to tell how much time the students have lost. It will be hard to establish the impact at the time that the sit-down strike will cease to take place, because impact will take some time before we are able to establish it. But we will be able to tell how many hours that the children have lost as at the time that the resumption. And then we will again put up better strategies this time as to establish how these teachers will be able to make up for the lost time. And I believe this time it's not going to repeat. To say teachers are going back to teach as to a catch-up program for the 1 week lost the students actually went through. We will develop our strategies and work with the teachers and agree with them as to how we will make up for this time. I think this is not going to be a repetition again for this COVID, the COVID catch-up time.
Thanks,
No, we wouldn't know yet.
No, wait. No. Yes.
And then after the meeting, all that go back to their region. You're not talking about Banjul and Serakunda.
Yes, Banna.
Yes.
PS is coming to answer to that question.
In short, I can tell you that all schools were affected. In context, all public schools were affected apart from the private schools. But we need the regional directors to give us that by the end of this week, because they will collect the data. So we don't want to rush again, and then we miss our target, to miss how much each school has missed. Each school has actually missing, let's say, the number of hours that each school missed. So we want the directors to give us the actual that out. So to rush to tell you, impact takes a longer time. I don't know if you're referring to impact as to the effect. And we will be able to establish that by the end of this week.
Thank you. Can I just let me add up to that? Okay. Thank you very much. I think to further consolidate what Mr. Gomez Mr. Gomez was saying, we were tasked as regional directors to go back to our regions to engage our partners. And I'm sure all my regional colleagues, school management in the region. And yesterday was supposed to be a school day. But the information did not filter down to every parent. Some of the parents were having their kids at home, believing that there is teaching and learning in our schools. So they will not allow them to go and play only and sit down in the school. So they keep them. So we had challenges of parents understanding this and then allowing their kids to go back to school, because we wanted them all to be back to school yesterday. Unfortunately, the information did not filter down. So we invited all these structures. I had a meeting in my regional office with all the stakeholders, and we informed them that, well, the strike is over. We want the kids to go back to school immediately. Those who were supposed to go to afternoon shift yesterday should all report to their schools. They will find their teachers there. Of parents in the schools. To inform their colleagues that the strike is over and their children can go back to school. We did this. And then also we encouraged some of our colleagues who are in the outer regions to use the community radios to talk to and the communities. Most of the schools are public. In Region 1 and 2, particularly Region 1 where you have the chunk of the private schools, who were actually going to school. But we have big public schools. So it's a challenge to all of us. We don't want to see the children outside. We want them to go back and learn. So that's why we are engaging our structures actually. That is the effect, but not the impact. The effect is because of the strike, our kids are not going to school at the moment. We want them to go back. But the impact is is a long-term effect. It's just the long term. So this is just what I wanted to say in addition.
Yes, just to add, it's good you talk about the issue of impact. Impact is not something you do overnight. But outside that, let me say when the strike was on, we also had our team to observe, to look at some schools that were not going. Yes, the declaration says all public schools, but I can assure you not every public school had its tools down. It was just a few across the country. So that is being compiled as we talk. The data that is collected during those visits is being compiled. Once we will compile everything to be able to do and to analyze that and be able to know, yes, that's what I just wanted to add to what they have said in response to your question.
Thank you very much. Any other question? Yes.
My name is Sri Posise. I work with Paranaya's TV. That was an allegation that PSG gave a statement, video interview with Standard newspaper, that, and I quote, and they said, they have not been agitating about teaching and learning materials in schools. These are their personal monies that are left with them as individuals, which doesn't go down well with teachers. If yes, you know who say, can you clarify? If no, is it in their domain to go for sit-down strike in case these things are not available in the school? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ordinarily, I wouldn't answer it. I think what we would, from journalists, is to have the two sides of the story. What was the question of the journalist? So that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. So it's an imbalanced reporting. The journalists ask whether they have been agitating or they have sat down. No. So what could I have said? I have never heard of teachers doing that. And besides, I not the agitation that I said relates to the strike is all about the COVID-19. These are monies owed to them. These are monies that we promised them to pay. And that's exactly what I said. I have never heard of it. And that was why we are making every effort to pay every teacher. Even from this, like the director has said, if the data verify it and who is due for payment will appropriately pay you. And it's good you brought this because I want fair reporting so that you capture the sides of the story. Otherwise, you are now trying to discourage some of us from even talking to you. I'm sure that's why you don't even get interviews from other people, because it's good to report fairly. This is the second time with Paradise. There was a time, no, sorry, not Paradise, Standard. And if they continue, they will be not getting interviewed. I want us to be fair. I am just being told, I don't even know about it. Somebody just brought it to my attention. And let me say that I am one person that owns up to everything that he does. If I offend you, not even any teacher, but you as an individual, I will apologize. I'll take full responsibility. I'm not the one that thinks, no, because I'm human, you are human, I can err. And if I err, I will take full responsibility and apologize. But let us put things in perspective so that we have two sides of the story. For one to becoming an unfortunate situation. And it's not desirable. We don't desire that. I've had it. And let me just say that even this COVID, I have not even paid my staff who were out in the field as well. They are not even there. Some of us were going into classes when this dropped, all the way to up country, particularly my communication unit, but I have not paid them. But the teachers are very dear to us, and I am repeating again for purpose of emphasis. These are teachers who demonstrated commitment to teach our students. For the students, we recognize that, we appreciated and supported it. And we have different ways of rewarding our teachers, which we have started. If you look at the plight of the teachers over the last 2 years, you will see a difference. We are committed. And I want all of us to appreciate that. We cannot be enemies. They implement our policy. So we cannot be enemies. The teachers implement what we design here as policymakers. So if we do not support them, it means we are planning to fail. because the policy would not be implemented. CRR, who developed, we appreciated. We did our own reward to that particular teacher in our own way, and many other teachers. So the teachers cannot be enemies to us. There is no ring that clear.
Thank you very much. Yes, I think that is very clear. Any other question? Any other question?
Before we close, just to
no, I'm asking. I want to make sure that all questions are exhausted, because these people are representing the society. So yeah, the public. So we want to make sure that they ask all the questions they feel the public needs to know. We're giving them that opportunity
to engage some teachers that come to this ministry for transaction. Some of us leave our offices, regardless of your level. Regardless of your level, we leave our offices and see them through to where their problem is. Some of us do it. You can engage teachers and ask them, for them to speak their honest opinion. So we are not that type of people. But I want to use this opportunity to once again and profoundly thank the Gambia Teachers Union for their consideration and understanding. The union have been very supportive all the way to this point. The change of resolution is because of their consideration and support. And I want to commend them and thank them and solicit their continuous collaboration in the near future. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Director, you want to say something?
I know, except to thank them.
Yes. That's my own director now. We have to speak. That's my own director.
Thank you very much. Yes, just like I told you yesterday, looking at the cohort of media people around us, these are very young people. I think I told you that yesterday, who are very intelligent, and this was demonstrated today from the kinds of questions that you have asked. And this partnership between the media and ministry, I think, would be strengthened over time. Like the PS has said, we have nothing to hide, and anytime we have issues, we call to attention and we discuss so that it goes to the public domain. Like the other guy asked, perhaps whether we were late in inviting you or not, we have never been negligent of the media, and we shall never be. Because for us, media is our own mouth. They are our own brain. I read a lot of media, reporting, and really I'm very much impressed. But like PS also said, we are very thankful to GTU. Sometimes even best of friends can fall apart in certain instances, but that doesn't mean that's the you have put in your budget. If it doesn't come, you are frustrated. Any of us. It could happen to any of us. You promise your dad at the end of the month I'll get COVID phone and I'll buy 2 bags of rice. The month ends, is not there. Then you say, you are all liars. No, these are the kinds of remarks we got. But I hope this message will be carried for public consumption, and I look forward to, as we expected, very accurate reporting, because the way the public consumes is the way they will react also and take the message as it is. On that note, I thank you very much for taking so much of your time and your resources and all other things to come and attend this. And looking at his line of activities today, I was even scared whether he would be able to attend this. Yeah. Since yesterday I was following him. I said, you must attend this. And then I'm also thankful to Director Region 1. As he said, a lot of directors are not here. They are all in the field trying to do 1 or 2 things, collecting data, and also fixing certain problems. Right? So we are thankful to you. We are thankful. Finance is the how is the finance? Mamburenjai of the ministry. So we are thankful to you. We are also thankful to Director of Human Resources for coming to support, and the staff of state for coming to support and grace this occasion. We thank you all very much.
Thank you very much, Director, for doing my job for me. So we start with prayers and we just close, because we all know that the place is very much in it. We want to pray so that we can all get to where we come from safely and report accordingly. So can we pray? Amen. Thank you very much for coming.